Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode of Team Jesus Outdoors. Hey guys, today I'd like to talk about something that I don't think gets talked about enough. And that's choosing the right ammunition for our 12 gauge home defense shotgun. Fellows, there is an absolute plethora of choices available in 12 gauge ammunition for home defense. Anywhere from standard rifle slugs to tactical rifled slugs, standard double-aught buckshot, high velocity buckshot, standard velocity buckshot. And there's also, and probably my personal preference, buckshot other than double-aught buck. So for example, number 1 buck and number 4 buck are somewhat readily available. I think what makes this conversation so confusing is that many of us have been hunting with shotguns for decades. We kind of confuse the purpose of hunting ammunition with the purpose of home defense ammunition, which I would also add is a little bit different from the purpose of tactical ammunition. For example, I've killed more deer with my 12 gauge slug gun than with all of my other weapons combined. In my 12 gauge Mossberg 695 rifle barrel slug gun, I only use one type of ammunition, one brand of ammunition. I always use Brennecke saboted slugs in my Mossberg slug gun. But when hunting deer with a slug gun, I kill deer anywhere from 25 yards out to 125 yards with that slug gun. Home defense situations are never going to exceed 25 yards. In fact, your average home defense situation is going to be at 3 to 6 yards. Before we start that discussion of how to choose the best ammunition, let me talk about one thing. If you have selected a 12 gauge shotgun, if you have selected a shotgun for your preferred home defense method, particularly if it's a pump shotgun, the best configuration by far to keep your shotgun in is what's known as cruiser ready. It's possible for your average shotgun to accidentally misfire if dropped, because the safety on a shotgun only keeps the trigger from being depressed. It does not protect the fire pin. So if a shotgun is dropped, it is possible for the firing pin to strike the round in the chamber. Therefore, most police departments train their officers to transport a shotgun in their cruiser in what's known as the cruiser ready position. So there is not a round in the chamber, but the magazine is loaded. And the real key to it is the gun is immediately ready to chamber a round and fire without searching around for the action release button. In the normal configuration of an empty shotgun, or even a shotgun with a loaded magazine tube, you cannot work the action without first pressing the action release, which allows you to work the action. In a home defense situation, you don't want to have to be fumbling around to find the action release. And I would propose that you don't even want to worry about having to find the safety. So therefore, putting our gun in cruiser ready condition, putting our gun in cruiser ready position entails a couple of easy steps. So first of all, we make sure we have an empty chamber. We make sure the tube is empty. There are no rounds in this weapon. Because I've actuated the slide, I can take the gun off of safety. I'll make one last check of the chamber, and I see that the chamber is empty. There is nothing in the magazine. Now I point the gun in a safe direction and I depress the trigger. Now the gun can be put in cruiser ready position. Leaving the action where it's at, you can fill your magazine with however many shells your magazine will accept. In this case it's 5, but I'm only going to, for this demonstration purpose, I'm only going to load this snap cap training round. So you'd fill your magazine, leaving the gun just like this. Safety is off. Your magazine tube is loaded, but there's nothing in the chamber. Now, because this is in cruiser ready position, all I have to do is now I can store the gun in this condition, and it's ready to, the gun is simply ready to chamber around and fire. Now, I would argue that without question, this is the condition that you want to store a shotgun in. All right, now the question that we posed at the beginning of the video, what's the best round for home defense to run in your shotgun? I'm going to propose that it's not necessarily the same as your preferred hunting load. So, this is a smoothbore shotgun, which most of your home defense shotguns are. So right away you can rule out saboted slugs. You don't run saboted slugs in a smoothbore shotgun. So my preferred deer hunting round is a saboted slug, but it's not a consideration for my home defense shotgun. I'm also going to propose that for home defense, rifled slugs, for most people, are probably not the right round. Fire in the hole.
Is your camera on?
Yep. Slug first. Low recoil. A rifle slug is fantastic at distance. The best way to achieve accuracy out of any shotgun at distance is going to be a slug. For a smoothbore shotgun, that's going to be a rifled slug. But since we know that most home defense situations are going to be at 3 to 7 yards, or maybe 8 yards if you have a really big house, you don't need to be prepared to take a 15 or a 20 or a 30-yard shot. In fact, most likely if you take a 30-yard shot claiming home defense, you're probably going to have a lot of splaining to do. So for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to propose the best way to choose your home defense round is by process of elimination, considering your personal home defense needs. What is the size of your home? Do you have to worry about overpenetration or not? One of the biggest problems with slugs is overpenetration. Now, maybe you live in rural America in a single-story home, and your nearest neighbor is 400 feet or maybe a quarter mile from your house, and therefore you say, hey, overpenetration is not a concern for me. I live by myself, or I live only with my spouse. I live out in the country. I don't have a neighbor nearby me to worry about, so overpenetration is not a concern for me. So maybe that puts slugs back into consideration for you. But for the rest of us, particularly those of us that live in suburban situations, I live in a small single-family dwelling in suburban America. I have a neighbor on either side of my house within 25 or 30 feet. My neighbor across the street's only 130 feet away from my living room window. So for me, overpenetration is a serious concern. It's one of my biggest concerns in selecting my home defense ammunition. I've done a lot of research. I've watched a ton of videos with different ammunitions tested in ballistics gel, different ammunitions tested in various, shooting them into various mediums. to get an idea for how well various shotgun ammunitions penetrate.
Like, you really wanted to. You work out with that sounded like it had some. Wow!
Most of these situations are trying to determine how they would penetrate into a threat in your home. Now, for this reason, I would propose that double-aught buck in most scenarios is not the right ammunition for me personally. Certainly not a high-velocity double-aught buck. That would be simply out of the question. For example, this Winchester 9-pellet double-aught buck is advertised at 1,325 feet per second. Now, in a short home defense, this 18-inch barrel home defense shotgun, it's probably not going to produce 1,300 feet per second, but that's the advertised velocity, so we'll go with that for the sake of conversation. So for me, that's just slugs, high-velocity buckshot, too much room for over-penetration. Shouldn't even be part of this conversation. If you live in an apartment where you have neighbors directly next door to you, separated only by drywall, maybe no buckshot is right for you. Maybe you should consider turkey loads or high brass number 7, or maybe just a 9mm handgun. But again, for my suburban situation, in a small single-family home, single story, by process of elimination, again, I'm a little bit concerned with the over-penetration of double-aught buck, even at lower velocities. I would say this would probably be fine for me in a pinch. In fact, I really like this Winchester 15-pellet double-aught buck at 1,210 feet per second. In fact, I think for me, in my small residential situation, a number 1 buck or a number 4 buck is probably the perfect choice. I believe there's certainly enough penetration there to stop a threat, but not so much that over-penetration is a terrible concern. Right here is the Winchester 24 pellet number 1 buck. As you can see, this held a very nice tight group, nice tight pattern. I was very happy with this. I was very happy with this round. It wasn't unpleasant to shoot. Really good round. So again, fellas, I'm not trying to tell anybody what they need to do or what's the right thing to do. In fact, what I'm encouraging is for you to give a lot of consideration to what does your most likely home defensive situation look like? And therefore, what is the best round for you to keep loaded in a 12-gauge shotgun to be prepared to defend your family and your home? I propose the easiest way to do that is probably by process of elimination. But hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. Everyone has a different opinion, and that's fine. Everybody has a different risk tolerance, and that's fine. For the average suburban dweller in a single-family home, I think probably a number 1 buck or a number 4 buck is probably going to be your best home defense ammo choice. I think that you can probably find a number 1 buck or a number 4 buck that patterns very, very well out of your shotgun. I think you can trust it to defend your life and your family. I think the concern for over penetration is relatively small with number 1, number 4 buck, and it's relatively inexpensive. But hey guys, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your opinion on this topic. I'd love for you to leave a comment in the comment box below. You know, for most of us, this is just for most of us, this is just peace of mind. Thank God most of us are never going to have to deploy our self-defense shotgun. But for the peace of mind of knowing that you can defend your home and your family, I think it's worth giving some serious consideration to this topic. Do your own research, think through your own self-defense scenarios, and decide what's best for you. Take a few rounds out there and see what rounds your weapon likes best. Every shotgun's going to have a preference, for lack of a better term, for a different ammunition. So know your weapon, know your ammo, know where your ammo is going to hit when you fire it from your weapon. And guys, thanks for watching another episode of Team Jesus Outdoors. God bless, tight lines. We'll see you guys on the water.